The massive ship moved through space like a shadow of death. It was 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built, covered in dark metal that seemed to eat light itself. Inside the ship, Captain Thexval stood 7 feet tall, his reptilian skin covered in old battle scars. His yellow eyes glowed with hunger as he looked at the small blue-green planet ahead. Another weak species, he hissed to his crew. Look at them. No weapons in space, no shields around their world. They will be easy prey. The Ravak had hunted across the galaxy for 1,000 years. They were born hunters, created by evolution to kill and survive. Their claws could tear through metal. Their teeth could bite through bone. Their ships carried weapons that could destroy entire cities with one shot. Thexval had personally watched 43 different species die. Some begged for mercy. Others tried to fight with primitive weapons. All of them failed. Today he would add humans to his list. On the planet below, Hyunwoo Park was fixing a broken water pipe at the terraforming station. The work was hard, but he loved making this world into a home for humans. New Sol Colony was small, only 3,000 people, but it was growing every day. The sky suddenly went dark. Hyunwoo looked up and saw something impossible. Huge ships blocked out the sun, casting shadows over the entire colony. He had never seen anything so big or so frightening. Emergency broadcast to all colonies, he spoke into his communicator, his hands shaking. This is New Sol Colony. Unknown. Alien ships have arrived. They look like warships. Send help immediately. He knew help would not come in time. Earth was 6 months away at the fastest speed their ships could travel. Whatever these aliens wanted, the colony was alone. The first alien ship landed in the center of New Sol with a thunderous crash. The ground shook like an earthquake. Buildings cracked. Car alarms started screaming. A door opened on the side of the ship and the Ravak hunters came out. Hyunwoo had never seen anything like them. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but they were much bigger and stronger. Their skin was like a lizard's, dark green and covered in sharp scales. Their hands ended in claws that looked like knives. When they opened their mouths, rows of sharp teeth glittered in the sunlight. Attention, small creatures. The largest Ravak spoke in broken human language. I am Hunt Leader Kethmore. You are now our prey. We will hunt you for sport and food. Some of you may live if you provide good hunting. Most of you will die today. People started screaming. Some ran toward their houses. Others tried to get to their cars. A few grabbed whatever weapons they could find, kitchen knives, baseball bats, work tools. Kethmore laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Yes, run. Fear makes the meat taste better. But Hyunwoo did not run. He was scared, but he was also angry. These creatures had come to his home, to the place where his neighbors lived and worked and raised their children. He thought of his friend Minseo, who worked at the school. He thought of old Gitai, who grew vegetables in the colony greenhouse. He thought of little Subin, who was only 5 years old. We won't make this easy for you, Hyunwoo said quietly. The hunt leader heard him and turned around. What did you say, little creature? I said we won't make this easy. Hyunwoo's voice was stronger now. You want to hunt us? Fine, but we'll fight back. And when we're done, you'll wish you never came here. Kethmore's eyes flashed with amusement. In all his years of hunting, no prey had ever threatened him before. Usually they just begged or ran away crying. Brave words from something so small and weak, the Ravak said. Show me this fight you promise. Hyunwoo looked around at his neighbors. They were teachers, farmers, engineers, shopkeepers. They had never been soldiers. But they were human, and humans had not become the dominant species on Earth by giving up when things got hard. Everyone listen to me, Hyunwoo called out. Split up into small groups. Use the underground tunnels. Take anything that can be used as a weapon. These things want to hunt us? Let's show them what happens when humans get angry. The colonists started to move, following Hyunwoo's words. They had built New Sol Colony from nothing, working together to survive on an alien world. They knew every tunnel, every building, every hiding place. Kethmore watched with growing interest. Most prey species just panicked when the hunt began. These humans were organizing. They were thinking. They were planning to fight back. Interesting, he growled. This might actually be fun. The Ravok split into hunting packs of 5 or 6 hunters each. They had done this thousands of times before on hundreds of different worlds. Find the prey, chase the prey, kill the prey. It was always the same. But as they moved through the colony, something felt different. The humans had disappeared. Not just hidden, completely vanished. The streets were empty, the buildings were quiet. Even the smell of fear was gone. In the underground maintenance tunnels beneath the colony, Hyunwoo was talking quietly to a group of colonists. They're bigger and stronger than us, he said. They have better weapons, but they don't know our colony like we do, and they've probably never fought anyone who fought back before. Min Seo, the schoolteacher, had a wrench in her hands. What do? We use their size against them. Those tunnels are built for humans. They'll have to crawl to follow us. We hit them when they can't move well, then we disappear again. Old Gite held up a container of plant fertilizer. This stuff is explosive. If you mix it right, I can make bombs. Perfect. Sujin, you know the electrical systems. Can you turn off the lights in sections? Sujin nodded. She was an engineer who had helped build the colony's power grid. I can make it dark wherever we want. One by one, the colonists found ways to help. They were not soldiers, but they were smart. They were creative. And they were fighting for their home. Above ground, the Ravok were getting frustrated. They had been hunting for 2 hours and had not caught a single human. Every time they thought they had found prey, the humans vanished like ghosts. Then the first explosion happened. Gitai's fertilizer bomb went off right under a group of Ravok hunters. The blast knocked them down and filled the air with smoke. Before they could get up, humans appeared from everywhere. They hit the stunned aliens with tools and rocks, then disappeared again. 2 Ravok were badly hurt. The others were angry and confused. What kind of prey fights back like this? One hunter asked. Kethmore was asking himself the same question. In 1,000 years of Ravok history, no prey species had ever used tactics like this. They were supposed to run in fear, not set traps and ambushes. The second attack came an hour later. The lights went out in a whole section of the colony. In the darkness, the Ravok could not see well, but the humans knew exactly where they were. More explosions, more hit-and-run attacks, more injured hunters. By sunset, Kethmore had lost 6 hunters and caught 0 humans. He called for backup from the ship, his pride wounded. Send more hunters, these creatures are unusual. Captain Thexaval was watching from his ship. He had never seen anything like this battle. The humans were not stronger than the Ravok. They were not faster. Their weapons were much weaker. But they were fighting like nothing in the Ravok database. Interesting, he said to himself. Very interesting. As night fell over New Sol Colony, the real fight was just beginning. The humans had learned that the aliens could be hurt. They could be confused. They could be beaten. And Hyunwoo Park, a simple terraforming engineer, was about to teach the galaxy's most feared hunters what it really meant to be human. 6 months earlier, Commander Bora Kim was drinking coffee at Luna Station when the emergency message came through. She almost dropped her cup when she heard Hyunwoo's scared voice over the speakers. Emergency broadcast to all colonies. This is New Sol Colony. Unknown alien ships have arrived. They look like warships. Send help immediately. Then the message cut to static. Bora ran to the command center. Other officers were already there, their faces serious and worried. Admiral, Chen was studying the star charts with his hands behind his back. How long to reach New Sol Colony? Bora asked. 6 months at maximum speed, the Admiral replied. Maybe 5 if we push the engines beyond safe limits. Sir, we can't wait that long. If these aliens are hostile, then 3,000 colonists are going to die, and there's nothing we can do about it. The Admiral's voice was hard, but Bora could see the pain in his eyes. Get me everything we know about this sector. Every ship movement, every signal, every piece of data. Bora worked for 3 days without sleeping. She studied old trader reports, deep space sensor readings, and communication logs. Slowly, a picture began to form. Ships had been disappearing, colonies had gone quiet, and now aliens had found humanity. "Admiral," she said, bringing her report to his office, "I think we're not the first. Look at these patterns. 17 colonies from different species have gone silent in the last 5 years, all in the same region of space." Admiral Chen studied her data. "You think these aliens are hunting other species too?" "I think they're hunters, sir, and I think they've been doing this for a long time." The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, and it was not a nice smile. "Then they've never hunted humans before," he said. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them we need every ship, every weapon, and every soldier we can get. If these things want to hunt us, let's show them what apex predators really look like." Meanwhile, at New Sol Colony, the hunt was not going as planned. Hunt leader Kethmore crouched in the ruins of what used to be a shopping center. Half his pack was injured, 3 hunters were dead, and they still had not caught a single human. "This is impossible," growled Zarketh, one of his veteran hunters. "Prey does not fight like this." "Prey does not set traps," agreed Mordak, wrapping a bandage around a deep cut on his arm. "Prey does not use explosives. Prey runs away and screams." Kethmore looked at the bodies of his fallen hunters. In 500 years of hunting, he had never lost so many pack members to prey. These humans fought like nothing in the Ravak databases. The worst part was that the humans were getting better. At first, their attacks had been simple and obvious. Now they were complex and clever. They used the colony's own systems against the Ravak. They turned off power to create darkness. They flooded tunnels to slow down pursuit. They even hacked into the communication systems to play loud music that confused Ravak hearing, and their weapons were getting deadlier. The fertilizer bombs had been replaced by something much worse. The humans had found the colony's mining explosives and learned how to use them. They had turned maintenance robots into moving bombs. They had even weaponized the terraforming equipment, using atmospheric processors to create poisonous gas. But the strangest thing was how they coordinated. Ravak hunted in packs with clear leaders and followers. The Alpha gave orders, and the others obeyed, simple and efficient. The humans seemed to have no leaders at all. They made decisions as a group. They shared information instantly. When one human learned something useful, all the humans knew it within minutes. Kethmore had watched them through security cameras. A human would figure out how to hurt a Ravak hunter, and immediately every other human in the colony would know the same trick. It was like fighting an enemy with 1,000 brains but one mind. "Pack leader," came a voice over the communicator. "Captain Thexval wants to speak with you." Kethmore dreaded this conversation. In Ravak culture, failure in the hunt meant shame for the entire pack. Some hunt leaders had been executed for losing too many hunters to weak prey. "Report." Thexval's voice was cold and dangerous. "The humans are more difficult than expected, Captain. I can see that from the ship. Explain how you lost half your pack to creatures with no claws, no fangs, and no armor." Kethmore tried to find the right words. "They fight together, but not like a pack. They think together, but not like a hive mind. They are individuals who act like a single organism. I have never seen anything like it." There was silence from the ship for a long moment. "Bring me a live human," Thexval finally said. "I want to study these creatures myself." "Yes, Captain." But catching a live human turned out to be harder than killing them. Every time the Ravak tried to set a trap, the humans saw it coming. Every time they tried to corner a group of humans, their prey vanished into hidden passages. It was like the humans could read their minds. In the underground tunnels, Hyunwoo was explaining the situation to his people. "They're getting desperate," he said. "That's good for us. Desperate predators make mistakes. But they're also getting more violent," Minseo pointed out. "They're starting to destroy buildings just to flush us out. Then we make them pay for every building they destroy." Over the past weeks, the colonists had learned a lot about their enemies. The Ravak were strong and fast, but they were not very smart. They followed the same hunting patterns over and over again. They expected their prey to be afraid and confused. Most importantly, they had never fought an enemy that learned from every encounter. Gitai, How many more bombs can you make? The old farmer smiled. As many as you need. I found the chemical storage for the terraforming project. We have enough materials to level the entire colony if we need to. Sujin, what about the power grid? I can control everything from here. Lights, heat, communications, even the automated systems. If you want, I can make their lives very uncomfortable. Hyunwoo nodded. The humans were not just surviving anymore, they were winning. That night, the colonists launched their biggest attack yet. Sujin shut down all the power except for one building, the colony's main meeting hall. To the Ravak, it looked like the perfect trap. All the humans were gathered, in one place with nowhere to run. Kethmore led his entire remaining pack to the building. They smashed through the doors ready to finally catch their prey. The building was empty except for one thing, a recording playing on a large screen. Hyunwoo's face appeared, smiling calmly. Hello, hunters. By now you've figured out that we're not like your usual prey. We don't run away crying, we don't beg for mercy, we fight back, and we're very good at it. Kethmore roared in anger and shot at the screen, but the recording continued. You've killed a lot of species in your time. You think that makes you strong. But you know what? You've never fought anyone who fights back. You're not hunters. You're just bullies picking on creatures who can't defend themselves. The hunt leader looked around the empty room. This felt like a trap, but he could not figure out what kind. Here's the thing about humans, Hyunwoo's recorded voice continued. We're not the biggest, we're not the strongest, we're not the fastest. But we're the best at one thing. We never give up. And we learn from every mistake. That's when Kethmore smelled the explosive. You made a mistake coming here, the recording said. And now you're going to learn why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The building exploded. From his ship in orbit, Captain Thexval watched the fireball rise into the night sky. The explosion was so big that it shook the ground for miles around. Every one of Kethmore's remaining hunters died in an instant. For the first time in 1,000 years, an entire Ravak hunting pack had been completely destroyed by their prey. Thexval stared at the burning ruins of the colony. These humans had done something impossible. They had turned from prey into predator in just a few weeks. He opened a communication channel to the Ravak High Command. This is Captain Thexval. I need reinforcements. Send the second and third hunting fleets. What happened to Kethmore's pack? Thexval looked at the flames below. The humans happened. The news spread through the Ravak Empire like wildfire. For the first time in their recorded history, an entire hunting pack had been destroyed by prey. Not just defeated, completely eliminated. Supreme Hunter Draktith sat on his bone throne, watching the battle recordings from New Sol Colony over and over again. His massive claws scratched deep grooves in the armrests as his anger grew. Impossible, he hissed. Prey does not hunt the hunter. His advisors cowered nearby, afraid to speak. In Ravak culture, bringing bad news to the Supreme Hunter often meant death. Show me their biology reports, Draktith commanded. The hologram displayed human anatomy. Small creatures, Supreme Hunter. Weak bones, thin skin, no natural weapons. They should have been easy prey. Then explain to me how they killed 23 of our finest hunters. Nobody had an answer. On Earth, Dr. Minho Choi was working day and night in his laboratory. As the head of xenobiology research, he had been given every piece of Ravak technology and biological samples that the survivors from New Sol had managed to collect. Fascinating, he said to his research partner, Dr. Eugene Song. Look at their brain structure. Eugene studied the scans. Very organized, hierarchical. They think in straight lines. Plan, execute, complete. Exactly. They're like wolves, but without flexibility. Once they decide on a hunting strategy, they stick to it no matter what happens. And humans? Minho smiled grimly. We're like water. We find every crack, every weakness. We adapt to any container. The data from New Sol Colony supported his theory. The humans there had not been soldiers or trained fighters. They were ordinary colonists, teachers, farmers, engineers. But they had done something the Ravak had never encountered before. They had learned and adapted in real time. Their weakness is their strength, Eugen realized. They're perfect hunters, but only against prey that behaves like prey, and humans never behave the way anyone expects us to. Meanwhile, the second wave of Ravok ships was approaching the Tau Ceti system. Captain Thexeval had studied the failure at New Sol and made adjustments. This time, he brought twice as many hunters and heavier weapons. The target was Bright Harbor Colony, home to 8,000 human settlers. Dong Hyun Kang was the colony's logistics coordinator, a job that mostly involved making sure supplies got where they needed to go on time. It was not glamorous work, but Dong Hyun was good at seeing the big picture and solving complex problems. When the Ravok ships appeared in the sky, Dong Hyun was ready. Unlike New Sol, Bright Harbor was an industrial colony. They had mining equipment, construction mechs, automated factories, and a spaceport for cargo ships. What they did not have was weapons or soldiers. But Dong Hyun had been thinking about that problem for months, ever since the first reports from New Sol reached them. "Attention all colonists," he announced over the communication system. "This is not a drill. Hostile aliens have arrived and they're here to hunt us. But we're not going to make this easy for them." The colonists had been preparing too. Every man, woman, and teenager knew their role in the defense plan. They had turned their colony into a fortress using nothing but industrial equipment and human creativity. When the Ravok landed, they found something very different from what they expected. The colony looked normal from the outside, but as soon as the hunting packs entered the industrial district, everything went wrong. The first pack was crushed by a mining truck that appeared out of nowhere, driven by remote control. The second pack fell into a pit that had been covered with fake ground. The third pack was attacked by construction mechs that had been reprogrammed to see Ravok as enemy targets. Captain Thexeval watched from his ship as pack after pack disappeared into the colony. "What is happening down there?" he demanded. The surviving hunters sent back confused reports. The humans had turned their entire colony into a weapon. Every machine, every building, every system had been modified to kill Ravok. "They're using their technology against us," one hunter reported. "But not technology designed for war. They've weaponized their mining equipment, their construction robots, even their garbage disposal system." In the colony's control center, Dong Hyun was orchestrating the defense like a conductor leading an orchestra. On dozens of screens, he could see every part of the colony. With a few button presses, he could control cranes, trucks, conveyor belts, and automated systems. "Mining crew, drop the excavator on that group moving through Sector 7, he said calmly into his headset. "Construction team, activate the cement mixers. Pour it into the tunnels where the Ravok are hiding. Transport division, send the cargo. Train through the main street. Maximum speed." The colonists worked together like parts of a giant machine. They had no military training, but they understood their equipment better than anyone. A crane operator who had spent 20 years moving shipping containers could use that same crane to drop a multi-ton steel beam on a Ravok pack. A programmer who maintained the factory robots could reprogram them to attack intruders. Most importantly, they could communicate instantly across the entire colony. When one team discovered a new way to hurt the Ravok, everyone knew about it within seconds. The aliens had never faced anything like this. They were used to hunting individual prey or small groups. They did not know how to fight an entire civilization that had turned itself into a single weapon. By noon, Captain Thexeval had lost 60% of his hunters. "Fall back to the ships," he ordered. "Prepare orbital bombardment." But Dong Hyun had been expecting this too. "Now," he said quietly. Across the colony, hidden missile launchers revealed themselves. They were not military weapons. They were industrial rockets normally used to deliver supplies to orbital platforms. But the colonists had modified them, with explosive warheads and guidance systems. Hundreds of rockets streaked toward the Ravok ships. The aliens had shields designed to stop military weapons. They were not prepared for an attack using mining explosives, industrial chemicals, and guidance computers, programmed by people who had spent their whole careers getting cargo from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. 3 Ravok ships exploded. 2 more crashed into the planet's surface. Captain Thexval's flagship was badly damaged and limping away from the planet. In the wreckage of Bright Harbor's industrial district, the surviving colonists cheered. They had not just survived, they had won. But their victory came at a cost. Half the colony was destroyed. Many colonists were injured and some had died fighting to protect their home. Dong Hyun stood in the ruins of what used to be the main factory, looking at the burning wreckage of a Ravok ship in the distance. "Sir," one of his assistants said, "Command is asking for our report." Dong Hyun thought about how to explain what had happened. How do you tell someone that a bunch of miners and construction workers had just defeated the galaxy's most feared hunters using nothing but industrial equipment and teamwork? "Tell them we turned our tools into weapons," he said finally. "And tell them the Ravok have a problem. They think like predators, but they've never hunted prey that thinks like humans." On his damaged ship fleeing toward Ravok space, Captain Thexval was having the same realization. These humans were not like any prey species in the database. They did not panic. They did not run away in terror. Instead, they stayed calm and turned everything around them into a weapon. Worse, they seemed to enjoy the challenge. The last transmission he had intercepted from the human colony was not a cry for help or a message of surrender. It was laughter. The humans were actually laughing as they destroyed his hunting fleet. "Supreme Hunter," he said into his communicator, "we need to talk." Back on Earth, the news from Tau Ceti was spreading across human space. The colonists had not just survived another alien attack, they had completely crushed it. Dr. Minho Choi was analyzing the battle recordings when Dr. Yu Jin Song burst into his laboratory. "Minho, you need to see this," she said, her voice excited. "I've been studying the Ravok communications we intercepted." She put the translation on the main screen. "Listen to this. They're calling emergency meetings, they're asking for reinforcements, and look at this part, they're describing humans as prey that hunts back." Minho read the report carefully. They're scared. More than scared. They're confused. In their language, they don't even have words for what humans are doing. They're having to invent new concepts. Minho smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Good," he said. "Let's keep confusing them. Send this data to all human colonies. Tell them exactly how to hurt these things. And tell them something else." "What?" "Tell them the hunters are about to become the hunted." The Ravok High Command Chamber was filled with angry voices. For the first time in their empire's history, they were losing a hunt. Supreme Hunter Draktith slammed his massive fist on the war table, and the room fell silent. "2 fleets, he growled. 2 entire fleets destroyed by creatures that should not even qualify as prey. Captain Thexval stood before the council, his armor still damaged from the battle at Tau Ceti. "Supreme Hunter, these humans fight like nothing we have ever encountered. They are small and weak. Our databases confirm this. Yes, but they do not fight like small, weak creatures. They fight like..." Thexval struggled to find the words. "Like us, but different. They coordinate without hierarchy. They adapt without central command. They learn from every encounter and share that knowledge instantly." Elder Hunter Morgath, who had lived for over 800 years, leaned forward. "You are saying they fight like a hive mind?" "No. Hive minds are predictable. They follow patterns. Humans create new patterns constantly. Every battle is different. Every strategy is unique." Draktith studied the battle recordings again. At Inao, New Sol, the humans had used stealth and explosives. At Tau Ceti, they had turned their industrial equipment into weapons. The tactics were completely different, but equally effective. "What do you recommend, Captain?" "Full assault. Every ship, every hunter. Crush them before they can spread their fighting methods to other prey species." But it was already too late for that. Across human space, word was spreading. Not just among humans, but among all the species that had been hiding from the Ravok for generations. For the first time in centuries, prey had defeated the hunters. Hope was returning to the galaxy. On Earth, Sujin Zhang was working 20 hours a day in the Colonial Defense Office. As the former head of logistics for a major shipping company, she understood supply chains and communication networks better than most military strategists. "We need to connect every human colony," she told the Defense Council. not just for communication but for shared learning. When one colony figures out how to beat the Ravok, every colony should know about it within hours. Admiral Chen nodded. Like a military network? Better than that. Like a learning network. Every battle teaches us something new about these aliens. Every successful defense gives us better tactics. We're not just fighting for individual colonies anymore. We're fighting as one species. The network that Sujin built was unlike anything that had ever existed. It connected every human settlement, from the largest cities to the smallest mining outposts. When a colonist on Proxima Centauri figured out that Ravok hunters were vulnerable to high-frequency sound, everyone in human space knew it within an harker. When someone on Kepler 452b discovered that Ravok ship shields could be disrupted by certain radio frequencies, the information spread instantly to every human engineer and technician. But the network was more than just for sharing information. It was for sharing hope. Taiho Nam had been a game developer on Earth before moving to the frontier colony on Gliese 667c. His specialty was creating multiplayer games where thousands of players could work together to solve complex problems. When the Ravok arrived at his colony, Taiho did something extraordinary. He turned the defense of humanity into a game. Not a game with points and prizes, but a real-time strategy game where every human was a player. Through Sujin's network, colonists across dozens of star systems could contribute to the defense. Of Gliese 667c. A mathematician on Mars calculated the best angles for defensive positions. A chemical engineer on Europa designed new explosive compounds. A teenager on Luna figured out how to hack Ravok communication systems. All of their ideas flowed through the network to Taiho's colony, where local humans implemented the best suggestions, in real time. When the Ravok attack began, they faced something impossible. It was not just 8,000 colonists defending their home. It was 8 million humans across the galaxy, all working together to protect one small settlement. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the entire Ravok attack fleet had been destroyed, and the colony had suffered minimal casualties. But the real victory was what happened next. Every human in the galaxy had watched the battle through the network. They had all contributed to the victory. They had all learned from the experience. Most importantly, they had all realized something that would change the course of galactic history. Humans were not just good at surviving. They were good at winning. Captain Thexval was studying reports from the Gliese 667c disaster when his communication officer interrupted him. "Captain, we're receiving strange signals from human space." "What kind of signals?" "Ship movements. Lots of them. They're not running away from us anymore. They're heading toward our territory." Thexval felt something he had never experienced before in his long life as a hunter. "Fear. Show me." The star map lit up with moving dots. Human ships were leaving their colonies and moving in coordinated groups toward Ravok space. Not merchant vessels or colony ships, but warships. Ships that had been built for fighting, but that was impossible. The humans were supposed to be a peaceful species. They were supposed to be prey. "Captain," his tactical officer said quietly, "I think we're about to be hunted." The first human attack came without warning at the Ravok outpost on Kepler 186. Woojin Park commanded a small fleet of human ships that had been designed and built in just 3 months. They were not impressive to look at. The humans had taken cargo ships and mining vessels and added weapons, armor, and shields using technology they had captured from defeated Ravok fleets. But what made them dangerous was not their firepower. It was their tactics. The Ravok had always fought like predators. Direct attacks with overwhelming force. Human ships fought like humans. Unpredictably, creatively, and with perfect coordination. Woojin's ships came out of hyperspace scattered across the solar system. The Ravok expected them to group up for a traditional battle. Instead, each human ship attacked from a different direction, using completely different methods. One ship used mining lasers to cut through Ravok armor. Another used cargo manipulator, arms to grab and crush enemy fighters. A third ship released clouds of industrial nanobots that ate through Ravok hull metal like acid. The Ravok defenders tried to coordinate their response, but they could not predict what the humans would do. Next, every time they adapted to one attack method, the humans switched to something completely different. Within an hour, the outpost was destroyed, and the human fleet had vanished back into hyperspace. But they left something behind, a message broadcast. On all Ravok frequencies, Wu Jin's face appeared on every screen in Ravok space. "Attention, hunters," he said calmly. "You wanted to hunt humans. Congratulations. You've made the biggest mistake in your species' history. You thought we were prey because we're smaller and weaker than you. But you forgot something important about humans. We're not just good at being hunted. We're good at hunting back. From now on, every time you attack a human colony, we'll destroy one of your outposts. Every time you hurt human civilians, we'll hunt down your hunting fleets. You wanted to play predator and prey? Fine. But now you get to be the prey." The message ended with coordinates, the locations of 12 more Ravok military installations. "We'll see you soon," Wu Jin's recorded voice said. "Try to give us a good hunt." On the Ravok homeworld, Supreme Hunter Draktith watched the message with growing horror. The humans had not just defeated their hunting fleets, they had learned from them, studied them, and now they were using Ravok tactics against the Ravok themselves. But worse than that, they were enjoying it. The human commander had been smiling during his threat. Not the smile of anger or revenge, but the smile of someone who had found a challenging game to play. For 1,000 years, the Ravok had been the apex predators of the galaxy. They had never known what it felt like to be hunted. Now, they were about to learn. Draktith called an emergency session of the High Command. "Recall all hunting fleets, defend our territory, and send a message to all Ravok colonies." "What message, Supreme Hunter?" "Tell them to hide." For the first time in Ravok history, the hunters had become the hunted. And across human space, 8 billion humans were preparing to show the galaxy exactly why their species had become the dominant predator on Earth. The real hunt was about to begin. The nightmares started on the third night. Young Ravok hunters who had never known fear began waking up screaming. They dreamed of small bipedal creatures with clever hands and cold smiles, hunting them through the corridors of their own ships. Supreme Hunter Draktith stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the holographic display with growing dread. Red dots marked human attack sites across Ravok territory. In just 2 months, the humans had destroyed 27 military outposts, captured 12 supply convoys, and completely eliminated the third hunting fleet. "How many ships do they have?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Unknown, Supreme Hunter. They appear to be building new ones constantly. Our scouts report massive shipyard construction around every human colony." "What kind of ships?" "That's the disturbing part. They're not using standard designs. Every ship is different. They take our captured technology and combine it with their own in ways that shouldn't work, but do." Draktith studied the battle reports. The humans were not just copying Ravok tactics, they were improving them. A human ship would capture a Ravok vessel, strip out the useful technology, and within weeks that technology would appear on human ships across the galaxy, modified and enhanced. They learn faster than we do, he realized with horror. On the human ship Persistence, Captain Yunji Han was conducting an interview with a captured Ravok hunter. As Earth's leading xenopsychologist, she had been assigned to understand the enemy's mind. "Tell me about your dreams," she said to the prisoner. The Ravok's yellow eyes flickered with something that might have been embarrassment. In their culture, admitting to fear was a sign of weakness. "I do not dream. I am a hunter. The bioscanners show elevated stress hormones and interrupted sleep patterns. You're having nightmares. What do you see?" The alien was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "Small creatures everywhere, in the walls, in the shadows. They watch with clever eyes and sharp minds. They know things they should not know." Yunji nodded. She had interviewed dozens of captured Ravok, and the pattern was always the same. The galaxy's apex predators were experiencing something their species had never felt before, the terror of being prey. "Your people have been hunters for thousands of years," she said gently. You've never been on the other side of the hunt before. It is unnatural. We are made to hunt, not to be hunted. That's your weakness, Yunji realized. Your entire psychology is built around being the predator. You don't know how to think like prey, so you can't understand how prey thinks. What do you mean? Yunji smiled, but it was not a cruel smile. Humans have been prey for millions of years. We were hunted by bigger, stronger creatures long before we became hunters ourselves. We know what it feels like to be afraid. We know what it feels like to be small and weak and surrounded by things that want to kill us. But we learned something that you never had to learn. We learned that the best defense is not to hide from the predator. It's to become a better predator, yourself. Across the galaxy, that lesson was being taught in the most practical way possible. Jamin O had been a simple colonial engineer before the war started. Now he was leading a strike team through the corridors of a Ravak dreadnought, using human flexibility and creativity to turn the ship's own systems against its crew. Maintenance shaft on the left, he whispered to his team through the communication system. Subin, can you fit through there? Subin was barely 18 years old, a technical student who had volunteered for the mission because she was small enough to crawl through spaces designed for maintenance robots. I can reach the environmental controls from here, she reported. Want me to turn up the heat? Do it. Make them uncomfortable. The temperature in the Ravak ship began to rise. The aliens, designed for cooler climates, started to slow down and become sluggish. Young Su, what's your status on the power grid? I've found their central computer core. These things are incredibly advanced, but they're not designed to be repaired by anyone except Ravak technicians. The access panels are huge, and all the controls are built for creatures with claws. Perfect. That means they can't fix what we're about to break. Jamin's team moved through the ship like ghosts. They were not trying to fight the Ravak directly. Humans were still smaller and weaker than their enemies. Instead, they were using the ship's own complexity against it. They reprogrammed the cleaning robots to spread adhesive foam throughout the corridors. They modified the food processing system to create toxic gas. They even hacked into the ship's communication system to play human music at volumes that hurt Ravak hearing. Most importantly, they were learning. Every Ravak system they encountered was studied, analyzed, and reverse-engineered. The knowledge was immediately transmitted back to human space, where engineers and programmers used it to build better weapons and defenses. Within 6 hours, Jamin's 12-person team had captured a ship designed to carry 3,000 Ravaka hunters. But the real victory was psychological. News of the capture spread through Ravak space faster than their military communications could stop it. The story grew with each telling. 12 humans had defeated 3,000 Ravak. 12 humans had turned a dreadnought into a trap. 12 humans had made the galaxy's most feared hunters run away in terror. It did not matter that many of the details were exaggerated. What mattered was that the Ravak were starting to believe that humans were unstoppable. On the Ravak colony, world of Morketh, panic was spreading through the civilian population. Parents told their children to hide when they heard rumors of human ships in nearby systems. Merchants refused to travel trade routes where humans had been spotted. Some Ravak were even fleeing to remote planets, abandoning their homes rather than face the possibility of human attack. Supreme Hunter Dragtith received reports of the growing panic with disbelief. They are making our people afraid, he said to his council. Our people, the greatest hunters in galactic history. The humans are using psychological warfare, his chief advisor explained. They are not just defeating our military, they are defeating our confidence. Then we must show them that Ravak cannot be intimidated. Launch Operation Final Hunt, every ship, every hunter, every weapon we have. We will destroy their homeworld and end this threat forever. But the humans were ready for that too. The massive Ravak fleet assembled at the edge of human space was the largest military force in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships carrying more than 1 million of the galaxy's deadliest hunters. They expected to find Earth defended by human warships and orbital weapons platforms. Instead, they found something impossible. Every human in the solar system had joined the defense. Not just the military, but civilians. Men, women, children, elderly, everyone. The space around Earth was filled with thousands of small ships, converted cargo haulers, modified mining vessels, even personal spacecraft that had been armed with improvised weapons. But the real defense was not the ships. It was the network. 8 billion human minds, all connected, all working together, all focused on a single goal: stopping the Ravok invasion. From his command ship, Drakteth watched in horror as his massive fleet was torn apart by an enemy that should not have been able to fight back. The humans did not use traditional battle tactics. They swarmed like insects, overwhelming individual Ravok ships with dozens of smaller attackers. They used suicide runs, ramming attacks, and weapons that destroyed themselves to take out larger targets. Most terrifyingly, they learned from every exchange. When a human ship was destroyed, every other human ship immediately knew what had gone wrong and adapted their tactics to avoid the same mistake. "It is like fighting an entire species with a single mind," one of his officers reported in panic. But it is not a hive mind, Drakteth realized. It is something worse. It is 8 billion individuals who choose to think as one. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the Ravok fleet was destroyed and Drakteth was alone on a crippled ship surrounded by human vessels. A communication came through from the human flagship. A young woman's face appeared on his screen. Sun Miko, Admiral of the Human Defense Fleet. "Supreme Hunter Drakteth," she said calmly. "I believe we need to talk." "You have won," Drakteth said, his voice hollow with defeat. "Kill me and finish your hunt." Sunmi shook her head. "We're not like you. We don't hunt for pleasure or sport. We hunt to survive. And right now, your species' survival depends on what happens in the next few minutes." "What do you mean?" "You have two choices. Surrender now, accept human protection and live under our guidance, or continue fighting and face extinction." Drakteth looked around at the wreckage of his fleet. These humans had done something impossible. They had taken a species that had never been anything but prey and turned them into the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. "If we surrender," he asked quietly, "what happens to my people? You live, you learn, and maybe someday you'll understand that there's more to existence than hunting." For the first time in Ravok history, the Supreme Hunter bowed his head to another species. "We surrender." But even as he spoke the words, Drakteth wondered if the humans realized what they had become. In defeating the galaxy's apex predators, humanity had taken their place. The hunters had become the hunted. And the prey had become something far more dangerous than any hunter in galactic history. The age of human dominance had begun. 3 years later, the galaxy was a very different place. Sun Miko stood in the observation deck of the Human Galactic Council Station, looking out at a sight that would have been impossible just a few years ago. Ravok children were playing in the station's recreation areas alongside human children, their games supervised by teachers from both species. "Ambassador Ko," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Drakteth approaching, no longer wearing the bone armor of a supreme hunter, but simple civilian clothes. "Just sun me, please," she said with a smile. "How are the integration programs going?" "Better than expected. The young ones adapt quickly. They are learning that there are other ways to live besides hunting." It had not been easy. The Ravok were a proud species with thousands of years of warrior culture. Convincing them to abandon their ways and live under human protection had required patience, understanding, and occasionally force. But it was working. The Ravok colonies were now human protectorates. Former hunters worked as security guards, explorers, and even teachers. Their natural strength and hunting instincts were channeled into constructive purposes, protecting human colonies from dangerous wildlife, exploring hostile planets, and helping to maintain order in the growing galactic community. "There's something else," Drakteth said quietly. "My scouts have detected signals from the galactic rim. Unknown ships, large formations. They appear to be heading toward inhabited space." Sunmi nodded. They had been expecting this. Another hunter species? Possibly. The signal patterns are similar to old Ravak military codes, but more advanced. If I had to guess, I would say we are about to encounter whoever the Ravak learned their hunting techniques from. Sunmi smiled, and it was not entirely pleasant. Good. We were starting to get bored. In his office on Luna, Admiral Changmin Li was coordinating humanity's response to the new threat. 3 years of war against the Ravak had transformed humanity from a small interstellar civilization into the galaxy's dominant military power. What do we know about them? He asked his intelligence team. We're calling them the Vectar, reported Captain Hyun-Soo Kim. Based on long-range scans, they appear to be even larger and more heavily armed than the Ravak. Their ships are the size of small cities. Numbers? Unknown. But the energy signatures suggest we're looking at thousands of ships, possibly tens of thousands. Changmin studied the tactical displays. The approaching fleet was massive, but he was not worried. Humanity had learned a great deal about warfare in the past 3 years. Activate the network. Full integration. Every human colony, every ship, every orbital platform. Within minutes, 8 billion human minds were connected through the quantum communication network that had grown from Su Jinjiang's original colonial defense system. But it was more than just humans now. Friendly alien species, including reformed Ravak, could also link into the network. Sir, his aide reported, we're receiving a transmission from the Vectar fleet. Put it through. The hologram that appeared was terrifying even by galactic standards. The creature stood 12 feet tall with 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. Its exoskeleton was black as space, and its multiple eyes glowed with predatory intelligence. I am War Master Kekthul of the Vectar Empire, it said in a voice like grinding metal. We have come to investigate the disappearance of our hunting grounds. We find small creatures claiming dominance over territories that belong to us by right of conquest. This is Admiral Changmin Li of the Human Defense Force. This space is under human protection. State your business or leave. The Vectar War Master made a sound that might have been laughter. Humans. We remember your species. From the old databases. Weak, fragile. Good for entertainment purposes, but hardly worth the effort of a proper hunt. The Ravak thought the same thing. The Ravak were children playing at war. We taught them everything they knew about hunting, and they were poor students. Now they have been defeated by creatures even weaker than themselves. Pathetic. Changmin looked at the tactical display. The Vectar fleet was still 6 months away from human space, but it was massive beyond anything they had faced before. You're welcome to try, he said calmly. But I should warn you, humans have learned a few things about hunting too. On the frontier colony of New Kepler, In Ho Yoon was conducting a routine patrol when his sensors detected the first Vectar scout ships. As a former Korean Special Forces operator turned colonial ranger, he had been expecting something like this ever since the Ravak surrendered. The galaxy was full of predator species, and news of humanity's victory had reached all of them. This is Ranger Yoon to Colonial Defense, he reported. Unknown contacts entering the system. Configuration matches Vectar vessels from the database. Acknowledged. How many? Inho checked his sensors again. 12 ships, they're big. Much bigger than anything the Ravak had. Rules of engagement? Inho smiled grimly. Over the past 3 years, humanity had developed very simple rules of engagement with hostile alien species. Same as always. Show them what happens when you hunt humans. The Vectar scouts expected to find an easy target, a small colony with primitive defenses. What they found instead was a trap that had been 3 years in the making. New Kepler colony looked defenseless from orbit. A few thousand colonists, some industrial facilities, no obvious military installations. The perfect hunting ground, but appearances could be deceiving. The moment the Vectar ships entered the planet's atmosphere, every piece of human technology on the colony activated. Mining platforms became missile launchers. Construction equipment became mobile weapons platforms. Even the orbital communication satellites revealed hidden weapon systems. Most importantly, the colony was connected to the human network. In-Ho was not fighting alone. He had the tactical support of every military strategist in human space, the technical expertise of thousands of engineers, and the real-time intelligence of scout ships positioned throughout the galaxy. The 12 Vectar ships were destroyed within an hour, but Inho was not satisfied with just winning the battle. Humanity had learned the importance of psychological warfare from their conflict with the Ravak. He sent a message to the main Vectar fleet, still months away from human territory. Attention, War Master Kekthul. This is Colonial Ranger Inho. Yun, I just destroyed your scout fleet, all 12 ships, with the help of about 3,000 farmers, miners, and shopkeepers. I thought you should know what you're getting into before you come any closer. See, we've had some experience with your kind. Big, scary predators who think they own the galaxy. We've gotten pretty good at dealing with them. The Ravik used to rule this part of space. They had ships like yours. They had weapons like yours. They even had an attitude problem like yours. Want to know where they are now? Inho turned his camera to show a group of former Ravak hunters who were working as security guards at the colony, peacefully helping to rebuild the facilities damaged in the battle. They work for us now. They're actually pretty decent people once they got over the whole apex predator thing. We're hoping you'll be smarter than they were, but if not, well, we can always use more security guards. The message ended with, coordinates. This is where you'll find us when you're ready to surrender. Don't wait too long, we're getting hungry and we've developed a taste for hunting hunters. 6 months later, the Vectar fleet arrived at the coordinates Inho had provided. They expected to find a human military base or a heavily fortified world. Instead, they found something that broke their understanding of warfare forever. Earth. Not just the planet, but the entire solar system. Every asteroid had been turned into a weapons platform. Every moon carried defense installations. Every planet bristled with guns. But the real shock was not the military hardware. It was the people. 8 billion humans had volunteered to fight. Not soldiers, but ordinary citizens who had put aside their normal lives to defend their species and their allies. Teachers and students worked together to coordinate defense networks. Doctors and nurses prepared to treat casualties from any species. Farmers and factory workers had retooled their equipment to produce weapons and supplies. Even the children were helping, using their young minds to solve tactical problems that confused adult generals. War Master Kekthul stood on his command bridge watching the tactical display with growing horror. He had brought the largest fleet in Vectar history to crush a weak species. Instead, he was facing an entire civilization that had transformed itself into a single weapon. How is this possible? He asked his advisors. Unknown, War Master. Our databases indicate that humans were a primitive species only recently developed to space travel. Then the databases are wrong. The first human attack came without warning, not from their ships or their weapons platforms, but from the Vectar fleet itself. Somehow humans had infiltrated their ships. Small teams of saboteurs were working inside Vectar vessels, turning their own systems against them. Internal security teams to all levels, Kekthul ordered. Find these intruders. But it was too late. Human teams were already in critical areas, of hundreds of ships, and they had been learning about Vectar technology for months from captured scout vessels. Within hours, the Vectar fleet was crippled